UP Chief Minister Adityanath is in Delhi. He's on a two-day visit and he will be meeting the Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a short while from now. And this comes in the backdrop of criticism within the UP BJP of Adityanath's handling of the COVID pandemic and the BJP performing poorly in the Panchayat polls. Now, Sanket, yesterday the UP Chief Minister met the Home Minister Amit Shah, and that was a meeting that went on for 90 minutes.
That's right, Gargi. It was a fairly long meeting. Obviously, the manner and the nature of these meetings are secret, but what was communicated is that this is a feedback and review meeting. Now, haven't these two words become the favorite words to define any form of controversy or any form of confusion within political parties, whether it is the Congress, BJP, any state that you think of, any meeting that takes place, it is dubbed a review and feedback meeting. However, I think certain formulas are being worked on what exactly to do with the resentment. One thing without doubt that can be said is that there was great amount of resentment against Yogi Adityanath about his style of functioning, the fact that he was non-inclusive, and this has been reiterated in report after report that has been accessed by the central leadership of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Whether it is feedback from the RSS, whether it is feedback from their own MPs and MLAs from UP, or even Mr. P.L. Santosh, the General Secretary organization, who went and camped in Lucknow for 3 days and then came back and submitted a review. The sum total of all this feedback was that things are not well in Uttar Pradesh. And if you want to go into polls, then obviously something needs to change, which is why there was a lot of speculation whether Yogi Adityanath is going to stay or go. However, the Bharatiya Janata Party eventually realized that so close to the election, changing a leader as tall as Yogi Adityanath, someone in which the BJP is heavily invested, though he was not responsible for the 2017 Vidhan Sabha win in Uttar Pradesh, but to remove him right now is going to be political harakiri. And that is why he stays on. But what else happens? So there are some sorts of compromise formulas being worked on, being spoken about, how to change the organizational structure, who all to accommodate. I think that is going to be the key word as far as these meetings is concerned, to make Mr. Yogi Adityanath and the UP BJP unit accommodating of all religions, accommodating of all communities, so that this perception that has been created that he is anti-Brahmin and pro-Thakur, all of that is taken care of. So these dynamics are being worked around right now. There are some finer details also, but we'll discuss them as we go along.
Right, let's go across to Alok now, and Arvind also joins us for more. But Alok, it's been very surprising, the kind of news coming out of UP, because let's face it, in the BJP, we don't often see this. We don't often see, firstly, there was this dissent against the chief minister, and then, certain steps that were talked about, the removal of the prime minister's photograph from, Twitter handles, etc., etc. So it's all been building up, and a lot of speculation about it, and those meetings that took place in Lucknow, in UP, to get a sense of what the MLAs and ministers were thinking.
Well, you're absolutely right. Let me start by saying in Hindi, that is, कि संकेत जी ने इतना एकल वक्तव्य इतना comprehensive दिया है. I don't know the Hindi word for comprehensive, कि और कुछ उसमें जोड़ने का है नहीं. But you are right. I can talk about the backstory about how this has been building up. You are right that in the last some time there have been numerous complaints, some even on record, by various ministers and MPs and MLAs against the way the government is functioning, so to say, and particularly in response to the way the government has handled the second wave of the COVID pandemic. Now, if you remember, in the last 2 months, there have been many letters and even an on-record statement from an MLA in Sitapur criticizing the way the government has gone on handling the pandemic, and that's been a major sore point, because you see, everyone got affected by the pandemic, and that means that BJP voters, non-BJP voters, all of them were in the mix, and that's why the BJP is very worried, because there was this perception that went around that the Adityanath government had failed to handle the pandemic. It also didn't help that in the most crucial phase of the pandemic, the Chief Minister himself, unfortunately, had got COVID, and he was also isolated. So while he was very much there and he was chairing those review meetings, his physical presence was not there on the ground. And if you remember, that's something that he sought to correct, because as soon as he became better and he could come out of his isolation, he started touring the state. He went around to different places. It was very interesting to see that when he went to these places to carry out these reviews and inspections, he also met with the public representatives there. Because again, to take you to the backstory, if you remember, there's an MLA called Rakesh Rathod in Sitapur. He's known to be vocal. It's not the first time that he said something. But it was very interesting what he said. You know, the reporters there asked him about a hospital that had not been made functional even under the tenure of this government. And he said कि मैं बहुत ज़्यादा बोलूँगा तो मेरे ऊपर sedition लग जाएगा. मतलब यहाँ क्या आपको लगता है MLAs को कोई आज़ादी है? And again, if you remember a while ago, I think, I don't remember the exact timeline, but in 2020 at some point of time, there was a situation where a few MLAs of the BJP sat in dharna against their own government inside the Vidhan Sabha, if you remember, Gayatri.
Yes.
And that is why this perception has built that Mr. Adityanath may not be the most accessible chief minister or leader around. And that's something, whether it is correct or not is a different story, but that's something that the BJP wants to correct, because they feel that so close to an election, they cannot have these negative vibes going around. And that's why you see these flurry of meetings that are taking place. That's the backstory to it.